Wham! Talk 1600. You're catching the drift. Conservative talk. Intelligent conversations on local, state, and national issues with Gary Wellings, chief editor of the Current newspaper and Current Online. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your host, Gary Wellings.
And good Saturday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to catch my drift here at Wham Talk 1600. And you can call into the show, 734-822-1600. Well, it's Happy Armed Forces Day. Let's make sure we all take a little time out of our day to thank and appreciate our veterans and their families who have to do without them while they're in service. If it weren't for our veterans and our military, we would not be here today. So take a little time to think about that. Memorial Day is also coming up. So this is the time of year when we really should go out. It should be every day, but go out of your way to thank a vet. If you see one at the airport or wherever, do your thing. Thank them very much for their service. All right, so what we do on The Drift every Saturday is talk about the news that we've put on the Daily Drift. If you have not been to the Daily Drift, go there, www.thedailydrift.com. It's the news you need to know. And if you find a story on the internet that I've missed, make sure you email that story to me, Gary@thedailydrift.com. And you can also get into the Current newspaper. It's a community newspaper here in Southeast Michigan, and would love to have your comments to that as well. And if you want to advertise in it, give me a call, 734-629-6010. And we can get you advertising here or on the station here if you want. So make sure you're doing that. You can catch this show also at conservativeradionetwork.com Saturday and Sunday nights at 8 o'clock. So make sure you're checking that out. Before we get into the show, let's take care of a little business. The Rock Shop on Gottfredson Road. If you're looking to get your summer garden and landscaping done, go to the Rock Shop on Gottfredson Road, 734-455-5560. They have an open house today. Go out and see Marco, Helena, and the gang. They might still have some hot dogs running. I think they were ending about this time, but get out there and see them. If you're looking for wall products, stone wall products, pavers, boulders, statuary, make sure you get out and see the guys at the Rock Shop, 734-455-5560, or you can go to their website, www.rock-shop, that's SHOPPE.com. Okay, go to the Rock Shop. Great people out there. Lots of great place to just spend a few minutes walking around, check out the gardens and all that kind of stuff, and just good stuff. You'll go home with something, I guarantee it. All right, so big news this week. Probably the biggest news was another possible terror attack on a plane flying from Paris to Cairo, Egypt. And the plane, it was a Airbus 320A, as I recall, A320, and can hold like 220 people, but thankfully there was only like 66 people, I think, including the crew on board, which is a good thing. So I think it was one of those red eyes and people didn't want to fly. Who would want to go to Cairo in this day and age? I wouldn't. But there's talk of black boxes maybe not being found, but maybe they are. I'm assuming they're getting close if that rumor is starting to spread. And we'll know for sure. They already have data. All modern planes now have data that constantly reflects up to the satellites and back to the home base and tells you what's going on with the plane. So they have that information. And as you just heard on the news there a minute ago, smoke-filled sensors were going off, and that means there was probably some kind of a fire or explosion or something going on in the airplane, and it was a new airplane. So my guess is it's not something that was a major catastrophic failure. I'm going to bet that it was indeed some type of a terror attack, but we'll have to wait and see. I could be wrong, and people got on Donald Trump for saying first thing in the morning when it happened that it was terror again. And Hillary Clinton, I think, took about 6 hours to figure out before she said it sounded like terror as well. But it happens and will continue to happen. And I think it shows that this war on terror is not really being won at this point. In Europe, they're facing some severe problems. If you go to thedailydrift.com, I normally put stories from Europe on there about refugee camps being burned and people committing crimes and that sort of thing, so you can see it. This is a very, very serious problem, and people need to take it seriously. When we talk about a ban on Muslim immigration, It's not talking about banning Muslims from coming here for business. Or it's not talking about throwing Muslims who are here out of the country. If you're a good citizen here and you are a citizen here, you have rights. And Donald Trump and none of the other candidates are talking about throwing anybody out of the country that's here legally and is doing the right thing. We're talking about a ban on Muslim immigration, which would be basically refugees that are unvetted coming from the Middle East or any other country where there's problems, Somalia or wherever. And we're just throwing them into the country right now. There was a report out this last week, 22% of Somalian refugees coming into Minnesota have tuberculosis. TB. Widespread and growing here in the United States because of unvetted, unchecked immigration. And it's the government's job to protect us from these kinds of things, right? How do we allow this to keep happening? And that's why it's a major issue. Besides the economy, the big issue is immigration. And they're tied together. Like we've talked about this so many times on the show. You can't bring in 1 million illegal immigrants a year and expect the job market to get any better because you're flooding the market with cheaper labor. These H-1B visas, it's not just the low-skilled jobs anymore. Now they want to bring in H-1B visa guys from India or wherever who will work for $20,000 or $30,000 less than a guy here. Facebook's following. That's that Mark Zuckerberg fella. He's got all the money in the world, and yet he wants to save a couple bucks by bringing tech people from India so he can lay off his American people because they make too much money. Well, thank you, Mark Zuckerberg. He met this week with Glenn Beck and some other faux conservatives, as I would call them, trying to say, and if you listen to Glenn Beck, I'm sorry, I know he's on the station and all, but I don't know where Glenn's coming from. It's absolutely insane. You can hate Trump all you want, but you know what? We're hiring a guy who said he's going to build a wall, improve the military, take care of our vets, stop TPP, which is in throwing our jobs offshore and our manufacturing capabilities offshore. Yes, I'm a big Donald Trump supporter. So, yes, if you want to call me the Trump show and call me a fascist for talking about Donald Trump, well, go ahead and knock your socks off. You can vote in the primary, and we did here in Michigan, your conscience. But when it comes down, I was talking to Linda before the show about this. You vote your conscience in the primary, but in the end, in November, you have to vote for what's best for the country. That's what you have to do. All right, let's take a call from Jimmy in Manchester. Jimmy, welcome to the show.
Yes, how you doing? Obviously, you're a total Nazi.
Of course I am.
Yeah.
Of course I am,
well,
Jimmy.
Good for you. Kyle. No, what I actually called about is you mentioned Memorial Day coming up. Today's Armed Forces Day, and I spent the entire morning replacing the flags at Oak Grove Cemetery in Manchester. My dad and I and my family, we do it every year. My dad takes care of about 11 cemeteries in the area. And the history, when you start looking at, a lot of them are World War II, Vietnam era people, and you see a few people from the Persian Gulf and what have you. But there is a gentleman in Manchester that died in 1825. He actually served in the Revolutionary War. His name is Ebenezer Root. And when you think about that, this man was buried there in 1825 in Manchester. What kind of a town was Manchester in 1825?
Probably a 2-horse, 1-house town, man, back then. Gosh knows. That's amazing.
Yeah, when he died, he was probably half the population.
Yeah.
But it's just, you see a lot of GARs, and, there's a lot of the flag holders are in disarray. I mean, they're all cast iron or broken. We are replacing them slowly, but, there's no money to do it, so we just do it, slowly but surely, but we get it done.
Well, Jimmy, that's really worthwhile. You know what? Why don't let's get together on that, and we'll see if we can raise some money. I'll put a show up. We can do a show to raise some money, for that. Try and get a a little something going so we can raise some money for those. That's one thing I never got the chance to serve in the military, and I regret it to this day. But I have the greatest love and appreciation for all those guys. And if we can do anything to help with that, because these kind of stories bring a tear to my eye, it really does. So I'm glad you guys do that. That's awesome.
And especially when you think about somebody like Ebenezer Root that probably came here. He was 75 years old when he died. Died in 1825. So that means he was born about 1750, 1751, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he may have been born in another country, brought here from another country, then winds up fighting at 30-some years old for independence, and then he gets sick of what's going on in Massachusetts, Connecticut, or wherever he was from, South Carolina, wherever, and he keeps moving west.
Yeah.
Now, that's determination.
Yeah, that's a crazy frontiersman there, isn't it? He probably fought Indians, too, coming this far. That's crazy.
Or he got along with them, one or the other.
Or got along with them, yeah, there you go. Gutsy. That's all you can say. That was America at its best, really, Yeah,
and I'm not doing this to blow my own horn. I'm just trying to point out that, it's very interesting when you start looking at these graves and you read on them, what divisions they were in and what, when it says Michigan infantry or Illinois infantry or Ohio infantry, New York cavalry, whatever, that was the militia back then. That was us.
Yeah.
That was not, there was no standing army at the time. It was very small. And so when we fought in the Civil War, they had to rely on, people like you and me. That's what they had. And it's just so, it strikes you. It makes you understand what it means to live here.
Yeah. Yeah. I had, I'll tell you, I had a haircut the other day at Ted's Barbershop up in Whitmore Lake, little plug there. And Ted handed me a copy of a letter from a friend of his whose brother had stormed the beaches at Normandy. And it was a letter written within hours after he found a place to be safe and the initial battle on the beaches was over. And when I read it, it was like straight out of Saving Private Ryan. The number of guys that died coming off the same landing craft that he did was just astounding. He was never the same. And it made me think. He goes, Memorial Day is coming on, and we really need to take a serious look at how we treat our veterans. And that's one of the things I like about Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's not going to do anything to change how we treat our vets. Our veterans should be, if they can't get into a VA hospital, they should be able to take their card and go right to the closest hospital and get treatment. Absolutely. I don't care what it costs. That is an absolute must. Every veteran in this country should be able to walk into a hospital, get the immediate treatment that he needs, and have the bill. And you know what? Send a bill to me, for crying out loud. We need to take care of our veterans. It just irritates me that we still have vets, even after this Arizona thing and everything else. There are still guys on waiting lists. There are still problems and scandals going on, and nobody's fixing it.
We owe them that.
We do owe them that.
We owe them that, and it's just like there was this. I'll say this, and then I'll get off the air so somebody else can get on. But there was a woman up there that was watering some flowers and taking care of a grave up there, and she thanked us.
Yeah.
And my dad and I both said at the exact same time, we were like, "Hey, don't thank us, thank them."
Yep. Yeah.
And my dad served. My dad did 23 years in the military and 3 tours in Vietnam. So he's a disabled vet and all this and that, and he should be thanked. But I never served. So, but I do service. We try to go out and do the best we can for the Wounded Warriors projects.
Yeah.
And put the flags on the cemeteries. We've been doing that for about 15 years now, and I'm glad that we do it.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Well, thanks, Jimmy, for the call, and I appreciate what you're doing. And let's just remind folks, hey, if nothing else, maybe walk into your local VFW hall and introduce yourself, drop some money on the bar, and buy a round for the guys, whatever, and just thank them, if it's Memorial Day comes close,
Go to the parades on Monday,
Yeah. Yeah, support your guys. Stand up and
elbow people that don't take their hat off when the flag goes by. You know, let people know patriotism means something.
Yeah, you got it.
All
right. Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate the call. You too. All right, let's take a call from Ken in Livonia. Ken, you want to talk about Islamic terror?
Yeah, I just want to address once again Islamic terror. There's people out there that want to blame Donald Trump as far as being a catalyst